Imagine a river so polluted, so choked with industrial waste, that it literally catches fire. Not once, but again and again. This isn't science fiction. This was the reality for the Cuyahoga River in Cleveland, Ohio. A river on fire, a shocking image that would eventually help ignite an environmental revolution across America. Cleveland, Ohio. By the mid-20th century, it stood as a powerhouse of American industry. Steel mills, paint factories, oil refineries. Giants like Republic Steel, Sherwin-Williams, and Standard Oil clustered along the banks of the vital Cuyahoga River. The river, whose Native American name, Cuyahoga, is believed to mean crooked river, reflecting its winding path, became the city's indispensable workhorse. It served as a crucial shipping channel and water source, but tragically it also became an open sewer, a convenient dumping ground for the burgeoning metropolis. For decades, unregulated industrial waste poured directly into the water. Laws were lax or non-existent. Oil slicks coated the surface, sometimes reportedly reaching a foot thick. Chemical effluents, raw sewage, flammable debris, it all converged in the Cuyahoga. Descriptions from the era paint a horrifying picture. Time magazine would later famously describe the river as one that oozes rather than flows. Eyewitness accounts recall yellowish-black rings of oil, thick, stinking water, and a river that bubbled like a deadly stew. Some even reported seeing bloated rat corpses floating by, swollen to unnatural sizes. By the 1950s and 60s, the pollution had reached catastrophic levels. The Ohio Department of Natural Resources reported conditions unsatisfactory for aquatic life. Large stretches of the lower river were considered biologically dead, devoid of fish, with not even resilient low-life forms like leeches or sludge worms able to survive the toxic brew. As far back as 1881, Cleveland's own mayor lamented that the river was essentially an open sewer through the center of the city. Yet, for many Clevelanders and industrialists, this environmental nightmare was simply the cost of doing business. Pollution was widely viewed as a necessary, albeit unpleasant, consequence of the industry that brought jobs and prosperity to the region. This acceptance of environmental degradation as normal laid the groundwork for the recurring disasters to come. With a river surface coated in flammable industrial oils and debris, fire wasn't just a possibility. It was a recurring hazard. The Cuyahoga River is known to have caught fire at least 13, perhaps 14 times, with the first documented blaze dating back to 1868. These were not minor flickers. A devastating fire in 1912 claimed 5 lives. Other significant fires erupted in 1936, 1941, and 1948, causing substantial damage. The most destructive fire, before the one that changed history, struck in November 1952. Ignited by an oil slick, it raged for days. The damage was immense, estimated at $1.5 million. That's close to $15 million in today's currency. Flames scorched railroad trestles and completely engulfed a ship, creating the dramatic, fiery images that would later become iconic. Yet, incredibly, this massive 1952 inferno generated little national attention. It was treated largely as a local industrial accident, a problem for Cleveland to handle. This muted reaction highlights the prevailing attitude of the time. A river catching fire, even catastrophically, wasn't seen as a national environmental crisis, but rather an unfortunate, almost expected event in a heavily industrialized city. The stage was set for a smaller fire decades later to have a vastly different impact. Then came Sunday, June 22, 1969. Around noon, the familiar, dreaded event occurred again. Near 2 wooden railroad trestles spanning the river close to Republic Steel's operations, in an area known as the Flats, fire erupted. The cause? An accumulation of oily wastes and debris trapped against the bridges, likely ignited by sparks from a passing train overhead. Flames shot upwards. Witnesses reported them reaching as high as a 5-story building, engulfing the wooden structures of the Norfolk and Western and Newburgh and South Shore Railroad bridges. Cleveland's fireboat, the Anthony J. Celebrezzi, rushed to the scene, battling the blaze on the water while land-based fire battalions tackled the flames on the trestles. But compared to the inferno of 1952, This fire was relatively small and short-lived. Firefighters brought it under control within about 20 to 30 minutes. The damage was estimated at $50,000 to $100,000. Significant, but nowhere near the scale of the 1952 disaster. Crucially, the blaze was extinguished so quickly that no known photographs were taken of the 1969 fire itself. This lack of visual documentation would soon become a key, ironic twist in the story. Locally, the initial reaction was remarkably muted. For Clevelanders accustomed to their polluted, occasionally flammable river, it was almost a non-event. It barely registered in the local newspapers the next day, overshadowed by other news. Just another commonplace event on the industrial Cuyahoga. But this time, things played out differently. Cleveland was led by Mayor Carl Stokes, a charismatic and politically savvy leader who in 1967 had become the first African-American mayor of a major U.S. city. Mayor Stokes recognized the political potential of the incident. He wasn't just going to let this fire fade into local memory. The very next day, Monday, June 23rd, he strategically led reporters on a pollution tour along the fouled Cuyahoga. Standing near the charred remains of the trestles, he publicly highlighted the severe pollution, blamed lax state regulations, and forcefully argued that Cleveland needed state and federal help to tackle a problem that originated far beyond the city limits. Stokes's advocacy provided a narrative. Then came the national spotlight. 6 weeks after the fire, the August 1st, 1969 issue of Time magazine, an issue heavily focused on the Chappaquiddick scandal involving Ted Kennedy, featured a story about the Cuyahoga fire in its newly launched section on the environment. The Time article prominently featured Mayor Stokes and used those unforgettable, damning descriptions of the river, a waterway that oozes rather than flows, a place where a person does not drown but decays. And crucially, lacking a photo of the brief 1969 fire, Time published a powerful, arresting image of flames leaping from the river, engulfing a ship, the dramatic photo from the massive 1952 fire. This potent, albeit misleading visual, combined with the shocking descriptions and Stokes's advocacy, seared the image of the burning Cuyahoga into the national consciousness. Suddenly, the relatively small, quickly extinguished 1969 fire became a potent national symbol of environmental catastrophe. Cleveland unfairly became the butt of national jokes, notoriously dubbed the mistake on the lake. The city took the reputational hit for a pollution problem that plagued industrial rivers across the nation. The burning river struck a raw nerve in a nation increasingly uneasy about the environmental cost of progress. The late 1960s marked a period of rising environmental awareness. Smog regularly choked major cities like Los Angeles. An offshore oil well blowout near Santa Barbara, California, earlier in 1969 had coated beaches with crude oil, horrifying the public. Against this backdrop, the image of the Cuyahoga River ablaze, even the misattributed 1952 photo, became an incredibly powerful and easily understood symbol of ecological disaster. It made the abstract problem of water pollution shockingly tangible, vivid, for millions of Americans who had never seen Cleveland. It crystallized widespread fears that industrial society was dangerously out of balance with nature. Public outrage, fueled by media coverage and activist groups, grew rapidly. People demanded government action. The Cuyahoga fire became a rallying cry, helping to fuel the burgeoning environmental movement that was gaining momentum across the country. The impact was felt locally too. In Cleveland, inspired partly by the national attention on their river, students from Cleveland State University marched down to the Cuyahoga on the very first Earth Day in April 1970, protesting the pollution that had made their city infamous. The burning river, alongside events like the Santa Barbara spill, is credited with helping to inspire that inaugural Earth Day celebration, a landmark event in environmental history. The wave of public pressure, powerfully symbolized by the burning river, finally reached the halls of power in Washington, D.C. While the legislative process was complex, involving many factors and political battles, the Cuyahoga fire undoubtedly contributed to creating a political climate where significant federal action on pollution became unavoidable. Mayor Carl Stokes played a direct role. He, along with his brother Louis Stokes, who was serving in the U.S. Congress, testified before congressional committees. They powerfully articulated the struggles of cities battling industrial pollution and urged greater federal involvement, regulation, and funding. The momentum led to landmark changes. In December 1970, the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, EPA, was established by executive order under President Nixon, creating for the first time a single federal agency dedicated to overseeing environmental regulations and enforcement. Then, in 1972, Congress passed the Federal Water Pollution Control Act amendments, commonly known as the Clean Water Act. Passed over President Nixon's veto, this landmark legislation established national water quality standards, restricted industrial and municipal discharges into waterways, and provided significant funding for sewage treatment plant construction. Its ambitious stated goal was to make all of America's waterways fishable and swimmable once again. While the 1969 fire wasn't the sole trigger for the EPA or the Clean Water Act, efforts were already underway, and other events played roles. Its unforgettable, shocking symbolism provided crucial public and political momentum, helping to push these critical environmental protections into law. Passing laws was just the beginning. Healing the deeply wounded Cuyahoga River required decades of painstaking work, collaboration, and billions of dollars in investment. It was a long, complex process involving multiple agencies and initiatives. The Northeast Ohio Regional Sewer District, NERSD, established in 1972, partly in response to the crisis, began the massive task of upgrading sewage infrastructure and reducing the discharge of untreated wastewater through combined sewer overflows. Industries facing new regulations under the Clean Water Act started treating their effluent before releasing it into the river. Cities along the river, particularly Cleveland and Akron, invested heavily in cleanup efforts, spurred by local initiatives like the $100 million bond Cleveland voters had already passed in 1968. Significant progress came through the Great Lakes Restoration Initiative, GLRI, a federal program targeting the most polluted areas around the Great Lakes. The lower Cuyahoga was designated an Area of Concern, AOC, triggering focused efforts to remediate contaminated sediments lingering on the river bottom, restore degraded fish and wildlife habitats, and address specific environmental problems known as beneficial use impairments, BUIs. Projects involved dredging toxic sludge, restoring floodplain connections, and creating healthier aquatic environments. One of the most impactful strategies was the removal of obsolete dams that fragmented the river and harmed water quality. The Brecksville Diversion Dam and Pinery Feeder Dam within the Cuyahoga Valley National Park were removed in 2020. Work continues on the larger Gorge Dam removal project upstream. These removals improved dissolved oxygen levels, allowed fish to migrate freely to historic spawning grounds, and helped restore the river's natural flow patterns. The results of this sustained, multi-pronged effort have been nothing short of remarkable. The river that was once biologically dead now supports a diverse aquatic ecosystem. Recent surveys have found around 60 to 70 different species of fish thriving in its waters, a stunning recovery from zero. Sensitive species, intolerant of pollution, have returned. Key indicators show dramatic improvement. Concerns about fish tumors and deformities caused by toxic sediments have lessened significantly, leading the EPA to officially remove these specific BUIs in 2023. Other impairments related to fish consumption and algae have also been removed. In 2019, 50 years after the infamous fire, state health officials declared that fish caught in many sections of the Cuyahoga were once again safe to eat. A major milestone. Wildlife has returned in force. Bald eagles, symbols of wilderness, successfully nested along the river within the Cuyahoga Valley National Park for the first time ever recorded in 2007, and continue to thrive. There are even ambitious plans underway to reintroduce the native ancient lake sturgeon to the recovering river, a testament to the restored habitat quality. Today, the Cuyahoga River is a river transformed. The waterway that once evoked images of fire, sludge, and decay is now a celebrated symbol of resilience, environmental recovery, and urban rebirth. The river where people were warned they might decay rather than drown is now a popular destination for recreation. Kayakers, paddleboarders, anglers, and rowing teams share the water where massive freighters once navigated through industrial grime. The surrounding lands have also been revitalized. Cleveland's Flats district, once dominated by heavy industry, now features restaurants, parks, and residences. Downstream, the beautiful Cuyahoga Valley National Park protects 22 miles of the river, offering trails and natural escapes. This remarkable turnaround has earned national recognition. In 1998, acknowledging its unique history and its pivotal role in sparking environmental change, the Cuyahoga was designated as one of only 14 American heritage rivers, celebrating the community efforts that drove its protection and restoration. In 2019, on the 50th anniversary of the last fire, the conservation group American Rivers named the Cuyahoga its River of the Year, honoring its incredible comeback story. The story of the burning Cuyahoga River is far more than just a tale of pollution and fire. It's a powerful testament to the impact of public awareness, the crucial role of dedicated advocacy like that of Mayor Carl Stokes, the effectiveness of landmark legislation like the Clean Water Act, and the necessity of decades of persistent collaborative cleanup work. It serves as a crucial reminder that even severely damaged environments can heal, that restoration is possible, and that a river, once given up for dead, can indeed rise from the ashes, cleaner and full of life. The Cuyahoga River. Once it burned, now it flows. A powerful living current carrying lessons of history, the proof of recovery, and an enduring stream of hope. If you enjoyed this video or found it informative, please give this video a thumbs up. Your time and effort really helps this channel. Thank you for watching Nations Decoded.